Hello and welcome to this month's Fire Chief's video message. Today I have soon-to-be Lieutenant Adam Nichols with me. Adam, you got a phone call yesterday. Congratulate you on your promotion.
Thank you, sir.
Well, you're on deck today and you got some topics for us. And what did you want to bring to the table?
Really looking forward to talking about a couple of things. One of the primary questions I have was about related to apparatus. I know our fleet's hitting about 10 years. We're coming up on a decade soon. We've had some troubles. Just wondering if we could talk about, I know there's a bunch of purchases in order, and if you just discuss what we plan on buying and
Yeah, so the capital improvement program and capital improvement budget now has a line item for apparatus, and that's plus or minus $5-6 million a year, which gets us into a regular cycle, which we haven't had since the major purchase of 2007 through 2009. Just in the last week or two, some of the new 29 EMS units have arrived. So Ambulance 732 arrived back in the fall. It's been in service for a while. That was the first of the 30. The other 29 are rolling in. The majority of them will be here by May, so in about 3 months, with the entire service of them being in service by the July timeframe. All of those will replace the 2007 units and some of the 2010 units. Those will then be rolled into the reserve, and some of the 01s and the 02s will be rolled out and disposed of. The major thing with the EMS units is the transition of the the cot and the bench seat. No longer can we transport a second backboarded patient on the bench seat. The bench seat is now a double wide. It's got some passenger safety improvements by having a padded end wall and not that net. The CPR seat's bigger. The headsets, there's headsets incorporated in the unit for crew protection and crew communication. So the EMS units are definitely going to help the capacity on the EMS front. TDAs and towers. 3 TDAs are in the production right now. The first one will be here in the April timeframe, with the second one in June, the third one in July. We're going to have a little bit of a delay getting those in service because we're going to have to do the equipment mounting test on the first one, so there'll be a delay on getting the first one. It'll take a little longer, but we anticipate having those all in service by September. A couple of different things on the new TDAs is there's some quick throw ladders on the side. One of the rear tiller access ladders has been removed, and 2 ladders have been mounted almost like engine companies. Have been mounted on the side, so we have some quick throws and the expanded capabilities there. But they'll still be rescue TDAs, and they're going to replace Truck 31, Truck 10, and a to be yet determined Truck 25 or Truck 6, whichever one is in higher need at Fleet's assessment. So TDA, as we talked about, now towers. There's 2 all-steer towers that they're at engineering on today, meaning they're almost finished with the engineering conference and the decisions, and they'll soon begin the production element. That'll be a predominant replacement for Tower 23 because it has the original all-steer tower at 23, and then a yet to be determined, second replacement. Those will be in service in early 2017, so about a year from now, we'll have both of those in service. And there's going to be a slight difference between the all-steers we have today, which is a mechanical-electrical combination of the AWS system. And this is a now all-mechanical AWS. I know some of the folks at 19 did a test drive of one of the new all-mechanical, all-wheel steer systems, and we will see those coming in the house. Now, there's other things on the hit parade. 2 tankers, a permanent tanker for 13, a replacement for tanker 31. Laytonville's buying their own tanker. That'll be in shortly. Brush engines, 3 or 4 brush engines on the replacement soon. They will be replacing the 1994 KMEs that we have at 13, 14, and 17, as well as 1 new rescue squad. We're working on trying to find contract vehicles or how procurement mechanisms to get those right now. So we're every bit of a year away from any of those, the tankers, the brush engines, or the rescue squad, but that's a project in the works. So We're going to talk about the apparatus committees in a minute. As you can see, each one of those committees is active and very busy. At the same time, we also have a mobile command post coming in. In conjunction with the county police, Montgomery County Public Safety is purchasing 2 new command units. New so that we go from a fleet of 2 command posts to a fleet of 4 command posts. Both the police bus and the fire bus are cramped in size. A, they're too long to be practical in some communities and some environments. And B, because they don't have slide outs, they're confined to the 4-wall infrastructure. These 2 new units are shorter in wheelbase, but also have slide outs to get you more operational area. And the plan is to sustain 4 command posts. Those will be shared between police, sheriffs, corrections, other elements, health and human services, and fire rescue, but be supported by fire and police. So one of those will be in shortly in the early summer time frame, and the other one a little bit thereafter beyond that. Now, what I didn't mention so far is engine companies, and there's a lot of interest in the engines for sure. We're on track with that CIP program to purchase roughly 4 engines a year. So over the next 5 to 6 years, roughly 20 engines in the current CIP cycle. The question is, what will they look like compared to what we refer to as the Crimsons today? Mm-hmm. The engine subcommittee was tasked with, here's some components that we want you to consider, come back with a recommendation. The baselines of their recommendations came back as tank size 750, LDH at 2,000 feet of supply line, a same capacity of hand lines, 6 hand line capacity, the rescue style or squad style body style. And I use that to describe the enclosed ladder and enclosed hard sleeve storage. The capability for a smaller cab, maybe a little bit narrower in the cab design. Cab design drives body width. Mm-hmm. If we can get a little bit narrower cab, we can get the body will be a little bit narrow, help in fitting in the neighborhoods and down some of these streets. Ideally, additionally, a little bit shorter overall distance. The next big question is CAFs and foam. And the committee came back with, yes, A and B foam solutions, and a recommendation to, in the next phase of engine companies, the next 4 years or the next 5 years of engine companies, not to have compressor-based CAF systems. Use solution as our approach. And because we still have 40-plus Crimsons in the service, we'll still have CAFs opportunities out there. And since we're operating CAFs as a extinguishment mop-up mode, not an attack mode, mm-hmm. we can transition when we need to on those types of events to a CAFs engine operating for the mop-up and overhaul stages. So at the moment, the committee's recommendation and the spec that will be finalized in about the next 30 days does not include the compressor and the compressed air component of a CAFs activity. So that's the general picture of the new engine that is being identified by the engine subcommittee and is being supported by Chief Jones and myself. So that's basically a great update of all the different things. And while we were talking, some of those pictures of the units, were available.
Okay, all right. You talked about committees a couple of times.
Yep.
Came up in your phrase. I wonder if you could shed some light on actually the apparatus committees that exist in the field. Around the coffee table, we hear a lot about people. No one really understands committees. I wonder if you go into that. Who's on them?
And there's a lot of committees in our workforce. I mean, with 2,700 plus members of MCFRS and the capabilities of both the IAFF and the MCVFRA, we do a lot of activities by committees. And our apparatus subcommittees have been a backbone of that for many years. And we utilize them as I refer to, the subject matter folks that make recommendations on and then do all the labor of inspections and factory visits and processing on these rigs. So there's 4 subcommittees, one for engines, one for aerials, one for rescue squads, and one for EMS units. Each committee is made up of 4 members.
Okay.
There's a rep from management, a chief officer. There's a rep from the mechanics, usually a crew chief. There's a rep from local 1664 and a rep from the MCVFRA. And the association or 1664 named their rep to those activities. And there's been some recent changes in those committees, both with retirements at fleet as well as retirements from the service. So the engine subcommittee, and the engine subcommittee is engines, tankers, and brush engines as well. Okay. Anything that we classify Class A pumps, carry water as a broad picture. So Frank Doyle is the management rep. Donnie Simmons just retired from the committee and was replaced by Pat Mann as the union's representative. George Brown from Sandy Spring is the association's rep, and Craig Ferguson is the crew chief. So you got Frank, Craig, Pat, and George. Now the aerial subcommittee, because TDAs and towers are different, they're pretty much an aerial, but they're also very different in their structure. Kelvin Thomas is the management rep. Both CMF and Local 1664 have identified 2 different parties for the different breeds. So Steve Wolf is the tower rep from the crew chief perspective, and Robert Haas is the TDA rep from the crew chiefs. James Lanham from Station 6 is the TDA rep, where Jim Slosher from Station 19 is the tower rep. Each of those groups, either Steve or Robert, Jim or Jim, as an example, they only have 1 vote. So if they're talking about TDAs, it's Lanham and Robert talking. If they're talking about towers on a committee decision where they're voting to have a vote on it, only one rep from each group is provided that information. And then that group is rounded out by Lieutenant Ron Dowdy from Kensington. So that's your tower and aerial subcommittee. The rescue squad subcommittee deals with, naturally, the rescue squads. Battalion Chief Monty Fitch is supported with Captain Mike Green and Lieutenant Robert James, both from Station 3, reference the rescue squads, and Robert Haas is the crew chief on that committee. And then EMS unit is led by Battalion Chief Bush from the EMS committee, or EMS section. Ernie Krause is the crew chief. Master Firefighter Dave DeVore from Station 10 is the 1664 rep. And then Captain Avi Cooperman from Rockville is the LFRD representative from the association. So each committee's got 4 voting activities, and because of that nuance in the tower group, it's a little split, but they're focused on one breed or the other. Now the committee talks about the design features. The committee reviews the specifications. The committee actually on the engine writes a specification and the program of requirements. And then once there is a contract awarded to a vendor, the committee is then traveling to the factory and doing the engineering conferences, doing the midpoint inspections, doing the final inspections. And each of those committee members is critical in ensuring that we're following the spec, that the ergonomics, the function, the features that we want as an organization are in those units. So we've been in the law. Each of those committees had a law after the 2010 timeframe until about now, when we started really ramping back up in apparatus. But ideally with the CIP, it's going to continue on pretty heavy for the foreseeable future for sure. So hopefully that helps identify what the committees are. 4 members, 4 votes, 1 from each group, and how they work.
All right.
So you've had activities involving the SCBA shop, Honor Guard, SISM, as well as driver's training. And I asked you to reach back to Buddy Rogers at the SCBA shop and reach back to Pat and Lieutenant Schaefer at driver's training to highlight some of the components of those 2 sections, SCBA and driver's training. So from your experience as an SCBA technician, Adam, what have you seen? What is the future of SCBA?
Hi. From my lower level on the playing field, we just recently, SCBA shop has just recently moved. We
Right.
went from our facility in Oakmont, which people always had trouble finding because we were tucked back in the corner there. Now we're with the rest of the property, central maintenance facility. So that move took place in October. So since that move has transpired, now our actual SCBA, the actual packs themselves, we've come up on, I don't want to say their full life expectancy, but recently the warranty period that the county had purchased with them had expired. We're coming across, they're coming to life issues. For the most part, the reducers and all that stuff is still fairly well maintaining, but just like everything else we have, it's the electronics that usually we have issues with.
Right.
And I know, working the firehouses from time to time, you hear guys, oh, why can't I just switch out a battery? You know, why can't we just do it here? Why do we send it out? And just to clarify a little bit, one of the reasons we do that is for the simple fact of there's a lot of shorts that happen. And sometimes it's not just, you have battery light on, it's not just the battery, it's a whole function, the cylinder. For the most part, when the air packs come up for flow testing once a year, all the batteries are switched out. So the batteries going bad usually isn't a problem. Usually when we have a problem with the system, it's actually a short or something else.
So the battery is an indicator of something, not the Energizer Bunny being weak.
Yeah, usually the Energizer Bunny is running, he's beating his drum, but there's something wrong going on with the drum maybe.
So we purchased 1,200 or so SCBAs collectively over a period of time, but the majority of them are 2005 vintage.
Yep.
And we did have a 10-year warranty on the electronics, which is the most complicated part of a very reliable SCBA. And as you say, we've escalated here in the last 9 to 12 months from roughly $200,000, $300,000 parts per year situation to what we're forecasting to be $600,000 to $700,000.
Yeah.
Because we had a $500,000 plus or minus warranty capability provided to us by Scott. And SCBAs have changed over the life. We're operating with a 2003 edition of the standard. There's a couple newer additions to that, and the region collectively, starting with Frederick, then Alexandria, then Fairfax, soon we believe to be Prince George's, and soon us as well, are transitioning to a newer pack. We are worked through the process with the finance department to prepare a master lease. We leased that equipment back in 2005. We anticipate being able to do that again upcoming. We're looking at a little over 1,000 packs to be purchased. That's about a $9 million investment. One of the things that's important to us is that we do an entire transition at once. So from the beginning to the end, from the training beginning to the new packs being in every firehouse at all 37 stations, ideally about a 30 to 45 day window, because they're different. The electronics are different, the functions, the modules, the controls are different, and we can't phase that in. You can't take and buy 200 packs a year because it's something that's a life safety issue. I would hope, my best wishes are that as we roll into the budget, we may get some support through the budget process for this, and then we get the contract awarded, and then we bring on, by this time next year, probably even earlier, we have the new packs in place. Our friends, like I said, in Fairfax have the new packs in-house. I don't believe they've rolled theirs out yet. And the last I knew, Prince George's County was preparing to award a contract on the new packs. Everybody in the region has gone to the Scott X3 system, which is actually the 5.5 or 5,500 PSI system, so it's a higher pressure. That means we have to change some compressors, fill stations as well. Some of those older ones we have aren't compatible. And we're going to go to the snap change or the quick connect on the cylinder brackets. You still have the CGA thread, but the design on the actual SCBA is a snap fitting, and that'll be a wholesale change. But everybody in the region, the COG fire chiefs, have agreed to support 5,500 and snap change. So There'll be a lot of safety features involved in the new packs, as well as a potential reduction in weight and a little bit higher air capacity when you switch to the 5500. So I anticipate having those hopefully by the time we get to this point next year, but we'll clearly know once we jump in the July timeframe how we move forward with the packs. Again, all of our packs are maintained at the shop, high levels of service. Every pack is flow tested every year, and if you have any service problems, take it by the shop, send it in through the courier, and the folks under Buddy's shop and Mike Bobber, who's led that shop for many years, will ensure that it gets taken care of properly and is back to you with proper working order. So thank you for being one of the techs there. From the driver's training perspective, you were at the academy yesterday doing an evaluation. What's the driver's training program see, and what do you see at the driver's training program?
Right now we see constantly a lot of work. We're coming up, we always hear what a young department we are. We're moving up the ranks with a lot of people. And right now what we're dealing with is, the last couple of years we had massive hiring, 80% classes and everything else. And now we're seeing them come up to their tenure where they're starting to go through their Class B and move on to their engine tests. I believe the statistics I got from driver training was last year alone they did 16 Class B classes, 8 EVOC classes, and 4 Class A classes. But the primary number that should really go over is that they did 300 practical exams of all apparatus breeds, which actually is very labor and manpower intensive. And it should really hone in the point that one of the best resources we have in driver training is the instructors. It's been great to work alongside a lot of really talented, knowledgeable people who really, it's just a really good environment, a positive environment. And that's what I believe driver training is trying to push on people, is being proactive and moving along and really get the junior people experienced. There's two people in the front of an engine company and a truck company. You got your driver, you got your officer, and we're trying to really facilitate a great process. Right. If the driver's good, the officer has a much easier job. With that being said, I know for this year, one of the biggest challenges will be that they plan to do 7 Class B classes, another 4 EVOC classes, and 2 Class A classes, and that's going to be trying to facilitate all that, as well as have a move of the training academy. Yep. So now it's going to be one of the biggest challenges of 2016 right now.
And the driver's training group has always been flexible once a unique need has been developed. There was a EVOC class that filled up, and the people were waitlisted, and Dan made the adjustments, made another class, took care of providing scheduling on a different type of cycle. One of the things that we said here at the table before is the folks at the academy are flexible and do adjust as needed and as they're able to support different needs. And driver's training is just a further example of how that is something where if there's a different need or they need to go from so many classes of B and more EVOC classes, it benefits. Now there's no doubt that the driver's training checkout process is intended to identify and spot safety issues and identify and pull those rigs out of service when we have that. When we started pump testing many years ago, or brought back pump testing in a consolidated fashion, we had a lot of rigs not pass pump testing and not pass go per se. And occasionally a rig comes up to a driver's training test with a candidate, and during the walk around, the DOT check, identified out of service criteria issues are brought up. And one of the goals with that consistent process is every day we have folks checking out 200 pieces of apparatus. Every day we want to find out what may have happened in the last 24 hours that the driver may not have noticed or did not experience, but is a safety issue. And that starts with the driver's checkout every day. And the reason that academy process is in place for the driver's certification is doing that DOT and understanding the importance thereof, physically, eyes and hands-on, all those features. So thank you for the information from Dan, and Buddy referenced the SCBA and the driver's training.
No problem.
So we just passed through a winter storm, or I would say it's a little ice storm, but we also had the blizzard. How did you fare through the blizzard?
I worked most of the blizzard, so I came home to a fully shoveled driveway from my wife, which was pretty nice.
Good.
She got through that. Um, I did okay. In your opinion and experience, how did we do as a whole entire fire service?
As a department, we did a good job, and considering that we had usually about 40 inches of snow, maybe 30 inches of snow over a season, that's the Montgomery County norm, and we had 36 inches plus or minus of snow in 36 hours back during the blizzard. It was definitely something that was unique. Even Snowmageddon, which was 40 inches of snow over 4 days, is not comparable. When the forecast began that we were going to be plus 3 feet or plus 30 inches of snow, clearly we knew we were dealing with something different. Throughout that period of time, we had a low event count during the storm itself. On Friday and Saturday, we actually had pretty normal / low event count. Our normal day is 300 calls. We rolled well past that come Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday and Monday, we were almost at 450 calls a day. So as everybody experienced, we weren't getting around very well.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't get into the communities. It took longer to get the calls. We had documented cases of taking an hour and a half to get to a heart attack patient because of plows getting stuck, ambulances getting stuck, roads being impassable, crews walking multiple distances by foot and sked stretcher to get into the communities. So I want to say kudos to everybody who worked throughout that 4, 5, 6 day period of time when the conditions were no less than horrible, about the great jobs done. Yes, we had a few injuries. We had about 6 to 10 injuries during the time, most of those minor. Yes, we had about 20 apparatus issues, chain related, sliding related, road conditions related, most of those minor, most of those rigs stayed in service. But we had great support by the folks at CMF and the folks in the stations. Now, go ahead.
How about operationally, logistically?
So, one of the things when we deal with those types of circumstances, may it be a hurricane that's coming and our call load is going to go up, or the snow and the complexity of getting to calls is going to come up, we approached looking at staffing all apparatus and ensuring all apparatus had 4 personnel. We knew that we were going to have a hard time getting apparatus to calls, and if we had at least 4-person staffing on everything, if we ended up reducing our assignments, condition red, to events, and we sent less apparatus, we may still have the same number of people, and 4-person trucks and 4-person rescue squads and this such would allow us to send 3 in 1 assignment to a house fire and be able to do more with only 4 units. We did a pretty good job of that. We identified and had that staffing as our goal, but we had some errors. A few places we didn't identify the need for additional staffing. I'll use Station 40 as an example. We didn't ensure that Truck 40 and Engine 40 had 4 personnel staffing. We had just started the additional services there with the FY16 budget. Station 40 is a perfect example. We had failures to respond during the snowstorm, and our goal was to ensure everything we had got out and everything had 4 personnel on it. So that was something that, from the management perspective, that we didn't catch and communicate well. Planning and logistics. Back in the fall, we did a preparation for snow, survey of the stations, and a little less than half of the stations responded. And we didn't follow up with that. We didn't shake the tree and say, why haven't you responded? What are your needs for snow preparation? So as 4 days out from the storm, stations started saying, oh, I need chains for this unit, or I need more crosslinks, or I don't have ramps. Really? 4 days before the snow, we should have had that caught back in November's time frame. Another logistics issue is it's 5 o'clock on Friday night. Stations are calling and saying, can we get cots? We got extra people showing up. We don't have enough beds. You're right. We understand that. Chief Carr, in the past, we purchased almost 300 cots. We had cots, but we were out delivering cots to the stations until 2 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, during roughly a foot of snow on the ground, when that should have been done Friday morning or even Thursday afternoon. and we should have been pre-delivering, cots to the battalion offices or the stations. It's a logistics issue that we've identified and Special Ops is working on highlighting, so that when we get that type of storm in advance, we front load those type of activities. One of the things we did is we made extra AFRAs. We put flex units in service. When we hit 460 calls, clearly that predominant was in EMS. We used those flex units at 25 and Station 19 and Station 23, I believe it was, and those units were busy. And those units operated as we know flex units do, which are peak demands. We put a few extra AFRAs in service in Battalion 2 at 26, 10, and 11 to ensure that we had that ALS capacity where it may take us longer to get to those calls. One great example of a blizzard success story, and there's plenty of success stories out there, there's no doubt. There was a working code. A nearly 80-year-old gentleman, midday on Saturday, witnessed arrests down in the Garrett Park Schuylkill Road area, Company 5's first due area. Bystander CPR with mouth-to-mouth was initiated by a former service member who had also been an EMT. Company 5 with the ALS unit, the engine company, as well as the plow utility, and Medic 723 were dispatched to that event. After roughly 15 to 20 minutes of CPR, bystander CPR, and the arrival of the paramedics from Station 5, patient returned a spontaneous pulse. Crews rapidly loaded the patient up, transported him with the assistance of Utility 705 to Suburban Hospital, and he walked out of the hospital weeks later and has had a great recovery and good prognosis. That's just one call. There's many of those types of calls, but that was teamwork with both bystander CPR as well as resources. I talked about Utility 705. One of the things that is a balancing act during a blizzard is how many plows do we have? We benefit from having 6 plows from highway services. When we have a forecast of 12 inches or more of snow, we have an agreement with highway services that they will assign 6 plows to us. We put them strategically out there. We put a plow liaison on there, and we dispatch and manage those 6 plows until we give them back. I believe we kept them until Tuesday afternoon. Those 6 plows are for ours to use where we need to. Practically, it's not feasible for us to get more plows. Yes, we hear the recommendations, we need a plow in every station in the North County, or we need 12 plows. It's not practical because every plow we take off the road is a lane mile of snow emergency route that's not getting plowed. Mm-hmm. And those plows are supporting everybody else, as well as police, as well as all of our other fire stations. So it's not practical for us to have more than 6 highway services plows during these types of events. Yes, we know that plow 25 or plow 28 and 26 was all over, going to calls from 14's area to 17's area and down to 33's area as an example for like plow 28. But that's a reality of what we deal with, and it's something that you have to balance your resources. So everybody did a great job during the blizzard, and understand that hopefully spring's around the corner and we won't have to talk about this until fall again. So I appreciate your wife taking care of your driveway, because my wife took care of mine as well, and everybody's hard work during the blizzard. Right. So next month I plan to have firefighter DeAndre Richardson from Station 23 here. He's the next guest. I still have about 3 other guests on tap. So I want to thank you, Adam, and congratulate you on your soon-to-be promotion. Thank you for coming and bringing up some topics, and enjoy the ability to dialogue about Apparatus, SCBA, and as well as driver's training.
Sounds like we're spending a lot of money. So.
Oh, it's good, and it's something that gets us going forward. So as we wrap up this month's video, we're rolling out of winter, hopefully into spring. Remember, we still have a little bit of February left, and we still can have March snow. So take care, try to stay warm, and be safe.